Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Evers here with my delightful and intelligent sister, Cassandra Evers.
Hello.
Yay, with more real estate advice for you. I do want to start by saying, in case you haven't heard, a lot of the things we say might sound like legal or financial advice, and they are neither of those things. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a financial advisor. Neither is Cassandra. We're just a couple of real estate professionals with lots of opinions.
Yeah, we have licenses and things, but they're not for lawyering and advisoring on the financials.
Exactly. So, with that
Yeah,
being said, I love today's topic. We're going to talk
it's
about use.
before you say it, it's almost a rollover from last week or the week
Yeah,
before. It's like a prediction was there, but go for it.
we're
What's
a
the
little
topic, Rachel?
psychic. iBuyers. We're here to talk about iBuyers, and we touched on it a little bit last week or the week before. And in perfectly timed fashion,
Yeah.
Zillow has announced that they are retiring their iBuyer program. And
Oh, yeah.
and it's interesting watching the real estate community's reactions to that news, but I feel like we should start by unpacking what an iBuyer program is, because we're talking about it because we know what it is, but what if a buyer or seller or even an agent out there doesn't know what it is? So
Okay.
what is an
Rachel,
iBuyer?
Rachel, you tell me. I don't deal with iBuyers.
So
I
neither
deal with
do,
actual people.
yeah, iBuyers are kind of like, I think there's a situation that everybody can relate to that might help you understand. An iBuyer is a fancy word for, you know how you drive around your community and you might see a sign that says, "We buy houses cash. We'll buy your house fast." And it looks like it's handwritten, but it's obviously printed. Like you've seen those at intersections, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
"We'll buy your junk cars." It's kind of like that. It's a situation where a company will buy your house for a negotiated price without you putting it on the market. And the intention, I think, is to use technology to buy your property from you without you having to go through the hassle. And I'm going to air quotes that if you're watching, the hassle of putting your house on the market, staging it, doing pictures, having strangers in your house. It can be very unwieldy and
So it's
emotionally
basically
draining.
cutting out realtors and it's
Well,
cutting out lenders. It's cutting
yeah,
both of us out. So
it
we might be
is.
biased on this.
Well, so I'm going to actually, I am a person who believes that there is an ask for every seat. And if the market demands it, it will show up. So I think what there, yes, you wouldn't need a realtor or a lender if you were making a private agreement with a company. I'm going to take these bracelets off so they don't jingle. Um, I think the intention is to make it convenient. You had mentioned in a prior episode that buying a house is one of the most stressful experiences that people have.
Yeah.
And I think selling a house is equally stressful or maybe falls into that same bucket. So I think
Oh, I'm sure it does. Yeah.
the entities that are doing these iBuyer programs are attempting to leverage the inconvenience away from the transaction. And it sounds so easy, like input your address, we'll buy your house. What they're not so transparent about is the fees. And there's so much to unpack here. So before I said all those things, if I said iBuyer to you, Cassandra, what did you think? I mean, I feel like you would know more than most.
Well, I know what it is, but I mean, when I think of iBuyer, I think of a company that buys your house. Your house doesn't have to be listed. They'll basically pay you cash for it. You don't have to go through the hassle of anything, opening your house, showing it to anybody. It's like somebody knocked on your door digitally and said, "Hi, I want to buy your house. Will you take this much money?
Here's the number.
I'll see you at the closing table."
And well,
Basically.
yes. Now there are parts of an iBuyer agreement, and I'm no expert on any iBuyer agreements. I've never done one. I've heard stories in circles, and I have read articles. So this is purely intellectual information. It's nothing I've ever experienced. So please take what I say with a grain of salt. I hate this sentence, do your own research. Fucking annoying, but
Do your own research. Do your own research.
I know. Well, get me that's a okay.
Later, continue.
I gotta reset here. So the iBuyer initial
Doing own research.
proposal, I see you. the initial proposal might seem super simple, but there are, to my understanding, iBuyer programs that require sellers to pay for repairs. So I think there's a little bit of bait and switch that happens where an iBuyer company comes in and says, we'll give you, let's use real numbers. Let's say it's a $500,000. We'll buy your house for $500,000. And Mr. or Mrs. Seller are like, yes, that's wonderful. We don't have to go through this hassle. They sign the agreement. The iBuyer company maybe dispatches a third party to do an inspection. They pay, the company pays for repairs, but the cost of the repairs are deducted from the proceeds, the seller proceeds at closing. And the entities buying the property charge like 9% fees to the seller. And I just don't understand how that's logistically, how is that, I guess I can see how it would make sense if convenience is that important.
I was going to say, had I known we were going to do a specific example, I could have come up with better numbers, but very roughly speaking, I'm going to go with 100,000 because it's easy multiplication.
Perfect.
$100,000 house for sale. That's listed by a realtor. Generally, the seller's going to walk for about $92,000, something like that, roughly.
Well, so
$100,000. Pardon?
Walk with. You said walk for, and I just want to make sure we're clear. We're talking about
walk away with $92,000 in proceeds, roughly. $100,000 house for sale with an iBuyer program, it's $91,000. However, in addition to the $91,000, you're going to be subtracted is the repairs that the iBuyer company required you. So you're walking with less money. And I suppose, depending on what the spread is, it doesn't sound like a lot on a $100,000 house, but if you get into a $500,000 house, it can easily quickly turn into 10 grand left on the table for convenience, right?
Well, yep. And that single percentage point, I don't think flushes out in real life. I think it's more like 3%, a 3% difference between the house.
It is. I'm sorry. I forgot the because, and I assume it is more because the transfer taxes may not be a thing that are paid, right? Owner's policy. I'm not sure if the agreements have the same.
This is for the closing costs episode that we're going to do.
Oh, okay. So I'll stop. Anyway, all things at the end of the tape. The fees are about 3% more with the iBuyer program, generally speaking. Plus, there's repairs that you might have to pay for contractually. Yeah.
Anyway.
But the benefit is you don't have to clean your house, show it, move your dog, your litter box, let anybody into your house. But it can go terribly wrong, and that's what I thought we were talking about, which was when iBuying goes terribly wrong.
No, we've got bags of time. What I don't want to do is come out the gate being like, oh, it cuts out the realtors, it cuts out the lenders. It's bad, because I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true either.
In the market.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to make sure that we talked about, that as an option, because it is an option in many markets. It's not available everywhere. Those companies don't want to buy every house yet. But it's also a nice follow-up to when we were talking about like the Blackstones and the investment corporations. Like that's how they buy houses. And it made me think of I just sold my house to Carvana, my car, not my house. I sold my car.
They're buying houses now, Carvana. Get out.
Radical Carvana. No. And I did it. It was so easy.
Was it awesome? I've heard it's amazing.
Awesome. Not only was it amazing, they gave me more money than the dealership. So I happen to know right now, and this is a little bit in the weeds, but I happen to know, like you're under a rock if you don't know, that used car inventory is difficult to come by. And I was buying my
used housing inventory.
Yeah. So I was buying my replacement car from a dealership. And I said, do you want to buy my other car? And they were like, yes, we'll give you X for it. And I said, okay, but Carvana will give me Y for it. And the guy said, well, the reason they can give you that is because they don't pay their employees enough. Like that was going to motivate me to change my mind. Now the convenience, if it was $5 or $7 or $1,000, I might have done it, but it was more like $3,500. So I was like, are you sure? Like if you can match their number, even get closer to it, you can have my inventory. I'm buying from you. And they were like, no, we'll pass. So sold it to Carvana. They came, they picked it up. I signed a paper. I got my money. It was beautiful.
Okay, so we're talking about iBuyer. So I would like
Yeah.
to say Carvana's totally an iBuyer scenario, very
Yes.
similar. They're buying
And
it sight unseen as
and
an
it's
iBuyer.
working in that industry in a way that it's not
However,
quite working in
is
housing.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, let me go to I'm
She's
going to
looking
go look.
stuff up, people.
So
Yeah.
Zillow's iBuyer program never earned them any money.
Yeah. It
It was
turned out
never
to be,
profitable. So now I've
yep,
got to go look if Carvana
it's
is
profitable yet.
because if your local place, I know that different cars are worth different amount of money in different parts of the
Same, just like
country. Like
houses.
it's
Just
almost
like houses.
impossible. A Subaru here I could buy used for, well, I don't know the price now, but hypothetically, let's say 20 grand. In the Pacific Northwest, it would be worth 25 or 30. So I could understand Carvana taking vehicles and moving them around to other markets to make the profit. So
Yep.
perhaps they are profitable, but you can't really move houses.
Mm-mm.
So what Zillow or iBuyers did, they went into really hot markets and bought
Yes.
lots of homes and drove the prices up, right? We've talked about this. Made it almost impossible for
Yeah, it's
not
tread carefully
impossible.
because this is a
No,
narrative.
no.
This is a total narrative. It's
I'm
okay.
just saying what they
Finish.
did. That's totally what they did. I'm not like there's no judgment on it. They
Did they
went
though?
in and
There was a shortage of housing inventory, so they smartly, from an investment standpoint, went and bought it. Did they drive up prices by buying it? Like, was that their goal, or were they like, "Hey, this is a hot commodity in short supply. Let's go buy some."
well, the fact that they're selling the vast majority of those homes for less than they even paid shows that they overpaid for them and drove prices up. But I mean,
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
continue.
Anyway, no, that's um. So let's drive back to the action that sparked the conversation to begin with, because this does get very interconnected and it's kind of like trying to untangle a spider web. You can see where the lines go, but the minute you start trying to unravel them, shit gets sticky real fast.
Okay.
So, the move by Zillow to retire their iBuyer program is really interesting. And what I see in my real estate circles is agents celebrating like they think it's funny. They think it's a win for them. And I'm not so sure that that's true. And you're seeing the same things I am. Johnny, can we bring up the image? If anybody's watching, there was that one. Yeah. So this is where the memes, the celebration, the victory feeling comes from, I think. Do you want to read it, Cassandra? You can probably see it better than I can.
If you think I can see what's on your screen, you're nuts. But I do know what the image is, and it says Zillow. The company the general public uses to price real estate leaves the real estate market because they couldn't figure out the pricing. Hire a real estate professional. That's all.
Yeah. So there's somewhere in there is the most important part to me, which is Zillow, the Zillows of the world, from a public perception, is like where you go to find out what your house is worth and to understand your housing market. And it's almost like a misrepresentation of who they are and what they're up to, because the general public using Zillow to price real estate through Zillow, who's buying the real estate. This points to exactly what you said before that I disagreed with when you said it, because conceptually it doesn't necessarily have to be true for all iBuyers. I talk myself in these circles.
I don't even know where we are in the conversation, but continue. I'm excited to see where we're going.
No, well,
So
that's
you
it.
agree with me, I think. That's
Let
what you
me,
said,
yeah,
folks.
well,
I'm kidding.
well, I can see it too. Okay, so you've got a company that says, "Hey, we're the house experts."
Yeah.
And the public relies on Zillow. You know what? What people don't know, Zillow is a marketing machine. They take inventory, make it really
Data,
pretty,
baby. Data.
and it's a really pretty. They make all of the real estate listings a really pretty product that's consumer friendly. And kudos to them, because the MLS does a shit job
It's
of
awful.
making the
Zillow
product
is
palatable.
the absolute best website to go and find a house. It's not
For
always the
sure.
most accurate. Not all the houses are on there because
No,
where they get their data changes. We can talk about that later. But in
it's
terms of like
pretty.
ease, the app, pop-ups, don't even fucking get me started on pop-ups and ads like in weird spots. It is amazing. And they pay good money to be streamlined and to be awesome. And they get the eyes. Did you know that Zillow gets 36 million unique viewers? That's what they got last month. And over 200 billion visitors a year on average.
So
Not unique, but
the
that's a
point
lot.
is, the thing that a lot of the public doesn't realize is they take that information, repackage it, show it to the public for free, which is wonderful, and then they sell space to people like me and Cassandra, so that
Yeah, to be the
so that you'll
advertiser.
call me when you want to see that house.
Well, now to be fair, that's how Zillow started. So when Zillow started, they did just that. They took MLS data. So Rachel, as a realtor, and I'm going to just really super summarize because I know you'll get in the weeds. All realtors go like this, and they put
Yeah,
data
we
in the
could
computer for other for other realtors to see, and it's called the MLS. It's the
multi-list,
multi list service or something
multiple
like
listing
that. So
service.
the realtors have to pay to have access, but you get to see all the homes for sale. It didn't used to be public facing like it is now. So you'd have to go in and get all the listings. Zillow buys that data from different places all across the country and makes their gorgeous website with that data. It's taken data that's ugly. And Rachel, if she ever does a screen share, which she has done with me, it's fucking ugly. She takes their ugly data, which is accurate, and Zillow basically pays for the rights to see that and present it in a pretty way. That's what they started with. And then they offered lenders the ability to sponsor. So my name shows up if
Yeah.
you need
So
financing.
the
And then they offered realtors the ability to pay money. And and both of us have put money at Zillow, and I've put money at Trulia too, before they were bought by Zillow when they were a competitor. It's thousands of dollars a month. And for many people, it's tens of thousands of dollars a month for a hot market to have your face there. So they're selling advertising space. That's how they make their money. And then they got into the lending. And then they got into the title. And then they got into actually buying the homes, cutting out the realtor, cutting out the lender, and being very whatever about it. But then they went, okay, well, let's cut out the lender who pays us to advertise, cut out the realtor who pays us to advertise, right? And so we'll buy the house and use our title company, right, to do it, and we'll use our in-house, financing, and then we'll just turn it and burn it and sell it for a profit because that's so easy to do for houses, right, Rachel?
I mean, it's so easy.
Why
Everybody
aren't we
should
all
get a
doing
real
it?
estate license. Yeah, it's super easy.
Anyway,
I don't
I
even
think
know
a
how to
lot of real
follow that.
estate agents are really salty, and a lot of lenders and real estate agents are really salty at iBuyer programs and more Zillow specifically because it's the company's like started in like 2008 or something like
I
that.
think
It's
it's
not
6.
ancient.
I did.
2006.
So you
Yeah,
need to
that sounds
know
right.
that my entire master's program, my entire project was based on understanding Zillow and their model and how they work. They were like the subject of my capstones.
Yeah. Well, I they're phenomenal at what they do, which is presenting and selling advertising. I think a lot of realtors and lenders got very butthurt when they started their own lending branch, essentially biting the hand that fed them, starting their own iBuyer program, again, biting the hand that feeds them literally twice. Realtors are paying to be advertised on Zillow and they're buying your listings from your MLS, which you have to pay to have access to. You're not seeing any of the profit, if any, whatever. I won't even get
God,
into that.
let's talk about not us, but the consumer. So now they're competing against Johnny homeowner who needs a house for his family.
Yes. While the homeowner is on Zillow to look for their next house,
Yeah, it's crazy. The web.
but
It's the
Zillow's
web.
buying the house out from under them. And we posted the link to that TikTok. Imagine if you're over there looking for homes and you're in Seattle and you're looking for $400,000 homes. You and 8,000 people are looking for $400,000 homes. Zillow can see that you're looking for that. Zillow can go, this is a really hot price point. Why don't we just buy them all and then sell them for $425,000 because they have your data, right? They know what you're looking for. They know what the consumers are looking for. They have so much traffic.
And built right, the machine could be amazing and it could be awful. And I think it's turning out to be a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's like the little Big Brother part kind of reared its ugly head, and I think that's why there's a lot of celebration in the downfall of their iBuyer program among
So
real estate
why
professionals.
do you think they lost money? And I didn't do a lick of digging into what they said about why they removed the program other than it's not profitable.
Yeah, they basically. So when did you know that? Did you know that when Zillow opened their iBuyer program, their stock fell like pretty considerably, and then it's never turned a profit. And then when they reported the loss for the last quarter, they said, "Okay, we're going to get out. We're going to sell our remain." Don't get me wrong; it's not a fire sale,
Sale.
but they are selling about, I believe, 64% of the homes that they bought. Well, they're all for sale, but 64% are listed for less than they paid for them. And that doesn't mean I get to buy it or you get to buy it. Blackstone might get to buy a portfolio of them. Oh, you got 7,000 houses for sale? I'll take, all of them in Scottsdale or something.
Turn them all into Airbnbs instead of housing that people can live in.
I can't even talk about the Airbnb because whatever. Anyway.
Were we going to put up the article?
It's going to be a link. There's going to be a
link
link to it in the show. Yeah.
What was the article? I don't remember. I know that was also part of what sparked having this be the topic that we tackle.
I don't remember. It's just an article about them getting out of the housing market. But more importantly, so this is kind of like a sucky part. They're laying off 25% of their employees, which is huge.
Yeah.
And only a few months ago, they ramped up Zillow offers, which is like the iBuyer portion. They ramped that up and they were like, we are going after this. We are getting these houses. And then a few months later, they're like, okay, we're going to stop doing that. And we're cutting 25% of the workforce. However, my argument is that I don't know if they did drastic hiring to ramp that up or if they're cutting.
Well, it's years. That's
cutting extra people
for years.
For the fun. I don't know if everybody that they're laying off has to do with the Zillow offers iBuyer program.
I see what you're saying.
Right. Yes. Or if they're just using it.
So let's talk about, and I don't know if there's really anywhere to go with this, but I can't help but think, go ahead.
I have an amazing quote. Okay. This is from the Zillow CEO, okay, via press release. We've determined the unpredictability in forecasting home prices far exceeds what we anticipated, and continuing to scale Zillow offers would result in too much earnings and balance sheet volatility. This is the most difficult part of the decision, is its impact on many of our colleagues. And that's it. He literally says, oh my God, the unpredictability of home prices. So if the CEO of Zillow, which has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 15 years, if his words on the house market, if you take anything away, please just note that he says it's volatile and unpredictable. So when you ask your realtor,
will this be worth more in 20 years? Is this a good
yes,
investment?
is this a good investment?
That's exactly what I just wrote in my little notepad, because I get trash talked out in the wild a lot for my belief, my staunch position that
I know
your house is not a good investment. From the, like, an investment is a specific kind of thing, and your house that you live in is a different thing. It may or may not improve in value, and you may or may not make money off of it. But if you try and conflate that or treat your house as an investment, the market is unpredictable.
I will say historically homes appreciate in value. Can the current appreciation rate go at this pace? Not without a giant fat fucking minimum wage increase, so the cost of living goes up, right? And not every house can be $1 million unless the minimum wage is $100 an hour or something. You know what I mean? Like it would take a very long time, but we can't keep on this pace.
Basic economics.
Yes.
If you go from a high enough view, it's all just an up. It's always only ever an upward trend. It's when you start getting in closer and closer and closer to right now that you start seeing and feeling all these ups and downs.
All the little ups and downs. But I think home values will continue to increase. Perhaps we've had a fucked up year, but we can say this for another show. We've talked about the Generation X or Gen Y, Gen Z,
yeah.
millennials.
I have this thought that I have been wanting to say for a really long time, and you've got so much to say, which is refreshing. But dang, I can't even keep up with you.
Go for it. Sorry.
Okay. No, don't be. I love it. It's like a torrential downpour, though. Like you say something, and I have a thought, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can really go somewhere with this. And then you're like 3 ideas later, I haven't even formed my thought yet.
I'm sorry. Go for it.
I was just going to kind of back up a little bit and talk about the call in the market for a product like an iBuyer, because I do think they're trying to meet a need, which is removing the discomfort or the frustration that comes with even selling your house with a really good local high producing agent who knows the market and consistently delivers amazing results. Like me, I can't not take that opportunity. It's still selling your house is cumbersome and can be exhilarating, but there's work involved, and any opportunity to minimize the frustration and complexity. And I think that's what they were trying to do. So then my brain goes, how can I remove some of these obstacles? Anyway, yeah, there's something about the current process that people don't love because they're open to other ideas.
Can I tell you what I think it is? Because I experienced this to a bit. All right. So why I really think iBuyers came about, I think that technology has us to the point where we, for the most part, do not want to work with a human. We will minimally. Until something goes wrong, we need a human. But before that, if I can go like this, my phone,
swiping on her phone.
And I'm pushing my phone and go there. I sold my car. Money will be in my account Friday. They're going to be here with the flatbed at 3:00.
Yep.
And if something goes wrong, then you want to pick up the phone and talk to a human. But because I get people who very reluctantly pick up the phone, which is fine. And at this point, I say, if you can text me, you can call me, you can email me, you cannot fax me, you can message me, that kind of thing. But people don't want to talk. I think some of it's that, and I think that's why iBuyers. I will say that Zillow always said they wanted to make money the way you make money. They didn't want to make money on the spread. They wanted to make money on the convenience fee. And they literally call it a convenience fee, right? The convenience of not having to deal with realtors and buyers who are really emotional. We've talked about the emotional aspect.
Add in, and this is such I almost hate to bring it up, but the whole conversation around just the broad spectrum of service that you can get in my industry for approximately the similar rate as every neighbor.
Oh, well, we could pull up photos from a listing and go, oh, you used your cell phone for the photos. You didn't even hire a professional. The realtor's getting paid the same.
Well, the brokerage sets the rate for the brokerage, and every agent under that brokerage is going to charge the same for the broker. And many brokerages don't regulate or require any particular level of performance or delivery by their agents. So what you end up with is a newly minted agent who maybe doesn't care, doesn't know, doesn't perform as well as their neighbor, but your rate doesn't change because of it. I don't know. Another topic for another day, but I think that broad spectrum of experience, there's no consistency on delivery, so people don't know what to expect. And what you get with an iBuyer is a consistent, convenient delivery. So then I go, it's astonishing to me that Zillow didn't make money, except maybe they believed their own, what do you call that? Believe your own press? Maybe they believed their own estimates and they overpaid for the fucking properties because they didn't know how to do a CMA. I don't know.
CMA is a
Com-
comparable
Thank you.
market analysis.
Yeah.
And there's the joke, and this was a few years ago, and it's been beaten to death, but I will say it for anybody who didn't see it. The CEO of Zillow's home sold for approximately 25% less than the Zestimate.
Yeah.
Which just cracks us up, right? I mean, you own the product that's valuing your house, and it's public, so everybody can see it. It's valued at 24 million. Oh, and it sold for 20.
Well,
That's
and what people don't realize on the back end is all of the, I have so much to say. Any type of algorithm based valuation tool is only as good as the data it has access to. And the data that these tools have access to is determined by the people who built them, in part, and also determined by politics. So, Zillow, let me finish my thought. Write that down, though. I want to hear it. Zillow, hypothetically, in one market, might have a really good working relationship with the MLS, and they're plugged in and getting accurate, current data, and each MLS is different. So let's say that MLS A has certain information, like really detailed information about the houses that they sell, and they're really consistent about garnering that data and reporting it and making it available. And 5 miles away, you transition to a different MLS, and they're not data sharing. And this MLS has bad blood between them and Zillow, and they are opting out of data sharing, and the public records aren't available because that's another layer of information that these aggregators want to have access to and often use in their valuation tools. So you start like piling on. If you've got 30, let's just say that you have 30 different places that you can pull data to crunch how you deem appropriate. I use the analogy of your credit score. Like, using an algorithm to value your property, you have no idea the data they're using, how they're weighting it, how far back they go. Do they understand that north of Grand River in this town is different than 2 blocks away, but south of Grand River? Like, and real estate agents in your community know these things and can tease out those nuances. And the technology, though it may get there, is not quite there yet. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but
May
it's
I?
important to
Hold
know
on.
where the data comes from. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to that, and I will try to keep this short and sweet, but this is part you.
No such
If
thing.
what Zillow and automated things use, it's determined by the data that they have. You and I've talked about this, and this goes back to the level of service you'll get from different realtors varies, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you told me and showed me the realtor enters data
Yes. I was
for
going to go
listing
there
in the
too. Yes.
MLS, and they enter listing after it's closing, all the information. So ultimately, the information that Zillow has is determined by local fucking realtors, who some are phenomenal and some are
Accurate,
shit.
integrity.
Yes.
Exactly. And agents do weird shit. Like, they will, sure, data entry, we've all fucked up, right? I've hit a 2 instead of a 1 or put 100 instead of a 10.
Oh, it's not that.
But I have to put that out there because it really happens.
Yes,
But
of course.
also
I
you have
mess up.
agents who really care about their reporting numbers. So they'll sell I had a deal with an agent. I think it was like a $370,000 house, let's say, listed at 370. It was a neighborhood that this agent was very known for selling in. I represented the buyer. We negotiated what did I say, 470? So we were like 455 sale price. It was a significant price reduction. I negotiated a good deal for my client, and the reported closing sale price was the list price. And I 100% believe that it's because that agent did not want to reveal that he did not sell that property at the price he listed at. So now when an appraiser or a Zillow or whoever goes in, if they're using that data instead of the public mortgage data, then they're going to get an incorrectly inflated number.
And
It's
you and I've
circle.
talked about this, the standards, and perhaps the title company should be the one to accurately record the information, because data's huge. We've talked about how big data is.
Yes.
I could go on about how the mortgage application went from 4 pages to 14 fucking pages because they want more data.
So let's pause there, because if the title companies, okay, I wish I had my computer so I could screen share and show you this stupid spreadsheet that I had a client build for me when I value your property, the first thing I do is I go to 10 different algorithms and I pull their numbers, because what I'm looking for is consistency in everybody's data, right? I believe in painting and this is for agents. If you're an agent and you're listening, steal my shit, because it'll make you a better agent. I use 10 different sources, whatever automated algorithm-based tools I can, and I pull everybody's answer to what is my house worth. And then I go build at least 3 of my own reports, because I can slice numbers based on 6 months back. Sometimes I have to go a year back if the house is unique enough, or in a neighborhood that doesn't have enough sales, or it's not in a neighborhood. So I may go 6 months back only in this school district. And then I may go 3 miles out, but a full year back, right? So I'm slicing the numbers so many different ways that ultimately I should have a nice, robust, holistic picture of the value of your property. And the Zestimate is in there. Whether I agree with it or not, you need to know what it says, because that's where your buyers are going to be looking. So why did I go there, Cassandra? What did you say that made me say that?
I was just talking about where the data comes from, and that it's entered by the
comes from realtors. That's okay. This is what triggered it. One of the resources that I use is First American. They have an valuation tool on the back.
She's talking about First American, which is a national title company.
Well, and I was going to say that, because if First American is recording the data, I have no idea if they're using the data that only they have access to inform the number they give me. But I know for sure that they deal with refinances, and those appraisals are always different than purchase appraisals.
Oh, yeah.
And they also process, if I'm selling my house to my sister for $1, because she's my sister, if they're recording that, if they're plugging that in to their machine that spits out a number, you know that shit's going to influence that number. So my point is, if you don't know where the data is coming from that the algorithm-based tool is spitting out, you got to take it with a grain of salt, and oh my God, do your own research.
Well, and this is the point. She's doing goggles, everybody. No, it doesn't translate well on the audio. I already tried this. But I was going to say, this is the appraiser's job as well, is to try to look at all of the available data to them.
I know what
and come up with the value of the home. So you actually still have humans responsible for a lot of the big data that you see as a consumer, like facing, right? Like if I go to Zillow and ask what the price of my house is, it's different than what my HomeBot valuation will tell me. It's different than what my House Canary value will tell me. And
look at this lender realtoring right now. She's doing great.
Thank you. Oh, well, there's a house about 5 down that's listed and pending for $425. You know my neighborhood. It's 2,000 square feet above grade. If that thing appraises, I would be shocked. I'm like blown away. But
though, if it's a cash purchase, it doesn't matter.
I know
what
but
the
it
point
might.
of this whole conversation is. It just popped into my head, and I'm confused. I have to take a pause here, Johnny. Why does the clock say 30s and it was said? Oh, is that per minute? How many minutes have we been talking?
A lot.
40 minutes. Oh, okay. Because earlier it said 52.
He's going to have to cut like 10 of it out, I think.
No. Well, I don't know.
Okay.
So now I lost my fucking thought, Cassandra. Shit.
The reason for the conversation.
Yeah, I know that part.
Go local, use a human. That's what I thought you were going to say.
So the iBuyer programs, and it's not just Zillow. There are plenty of other ones out there. Remember my sign analogy at the beginning. The value of your house can only be understood by putting it on the market, and then maximizing that value comes from marketing it correctly.
Yes.
Positioning it. Marketing and positioning.
And perhaps that's what Zillow could not do effectively.
Right. And here's another fucked up layer. You know, people are always trying, well, they're not always, but real estate agents' services are not cheap. It's freaking expensive. And the value
your biggest
of
purchase.
Your house,
you don't want cheapest.
Well, and that's another episode, really. The value of your house, when I comp your house in the MLS, all of those sales have been done by real estate professionals, because they're the ones inputting the data. So the cost of the agency is baked into the value of your house. So I don't know. It's all just a big freaking tangled web. And if you're going to sell to it, like if I decide to sell my house to you, Cassandra, for $300,000, because that's going to make me happy and I'm going to save the commission, you know, I'll never really know what the market would bear for a house like mine in its current condition, where it sits, unless I put it on the market and see what the market says. Right?
Yeah.
Like you'd never know. So
Yeah.
I guess
I would say use an iBuyer if you list your house for what you want it listed for against your realtor's suggestions.
she's talking about too high, not too
And
low.
yep. And you don't get the offer you want and you want to sell it anyway. And so you sell it to an iBuyer.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I wouldn't keep it out of the realm of possibility. It's just interesting how much goes into it.
Well, I think we went the whole scope of iBuyers. So just remember, people, iBuyers, Zillow, big tech, all the data they get.
They're not people.
I know. I
I'm
meant
not
people
talking to you.
listening.
I'm not talking to you. I was talking to
Oh,
them. Because we mentioned
oh,
that before about selling your house to a
yeah.
person instead of an entity.
That's literally what I was going to say is like, hey, everybody, remember that big tech, all of their data is entered by actual humans who do err and they don't have the full picture of what's going on locally. It's just super broad strokes. And there are definitely some inaccuracies, as Zillow shows by Zillow getting out of the market.
Yeah, it's crazy. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the rest of them. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Redfin. What's the other one? The big one. There's another large one. I can't remember the name of it.
I don't know.
Anyway,
She's Googling it. We'll wait.
maybe. No, you're fine. We
I
can
can
wrap.
tell.
We've been on for a long time.
Well, you're
Homelight,
almost there.
maybe.
No, I think that's different marketing.
Open Door.
Yes, Open Door.
Open Door.
They're in a lot of markets too. Anyway,
Yeah.
just know what you're getting into and look closely at the fees in the agreement. And maybe talk to a professional agent in your area or two to really get your bearings before you make your decision. And then you're making an informed decision. It's really all you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily bad, but shop around.
Awesome. So
All right.
our contact information is in the show notes. I got to say it.
As always.
Yeah. And if you have shit that you want us to talk about, feel free to let us know somewhere.
Yeah.
Sweet. Make it a great
Real
day.
estate preferred, but we like philosophy too.
Well, I feel like we touch on a lot of things that my brain goes, oh, that would be a really good episode. And then I didn't write it down and I forget about it.
Same.
So if somebody's like, yeah, I really wish they would unpack that, I'd be happy to. I love talking about literally everything.
All right, cool. Well, have a good weekend or day.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Good night.